You're listening to an exclusive production from Valio. Decide with clarity. Make strong choices without losing balance. Chapter 1. The Cost of Indecision. Have you ever stood in front of two open doors, perhaps two inviting paths, and felt a quiet, subtle paralysis creep in? It's not fear of the doors themselves or even what lies beyond. It's the sheer weight of having to choose, of having to commit to one and consciously let the other fade away. This is the subtle, yet significant moment of indecision. It feels like a pause, a moment of thoughtful consideration. We often frame it as being prudent, as needing to gather just one more piece of information before we finally make the call. But what happens when that pause lengthens into hours, then days, then weeks? What happens when the thoughtful consideration turns into endless, dizzying rumination? Every single delay carries a price. It's a hidden cost, one that doesn't show up on a receipt but registers deeply in the accounting of your life. This chapter is about uncovering that price and understanding why learning the art of graceful decision-making is not just about productivity, it's about inner peace. Consider your energy. Indecision is a silent energy drain. When you're caught between two options, your mind doesn't simply wait. It runs a constant, looping internal debate. It's a never-ending mental ping-pong game. Should I accept the offer, or should I hold out for the other? Should I have the hard conversation now, or wait until the time is perfect? Should I start the project today, or spend one more day planning? This continuous internal negotiation consumes mental space that could be used for creativity, connection, or simply enjoying the present moment. That constant on-hold status is exhausting. It means that even when you are doing something entirely unrelated, having dinner, watching a film, spending time with people you care about, a small, persistent part of your consciousness is still tied up, arguing the pros and cons of that unmade choice. It prevents you from being truly present and centered. The drain isn't just mental, it's physical. The low-grade stress of an unresolved situation tightens the shoulders, quickens the breath, and makes restorative sleep harder to achieve. When you finally make the decision, regardless of the outcome, you often feel an immediate physical release, a lightening of the load. That feeling is the simple, beautiful return of your reserved mental energy. Beyond the energy cost, there is the cost of lost opportunity. Life moves at a steady pace, and opportunities rarely wait politely on the doorstep. When you delay a choice, you risk the choice being made for you. The job offer might go to the next candidate. The relationship window might close. The optimal market timing for a new idea might pass. The hesitation wasn't the refusal to act, it was the failure to commit. And the failure to commit acts in its own silent way as a decisive no. The person who delays in saying yes to a promising path often loses it to the person who said yes with speed and confidence. This is perhaps the cruelest cost of indecision. You lose possibilities not because you didn't want them, but because you couldn't bring yourself to step forward. Think of opportunities as being on a gentle, moving stream. To catch one, you have to step into the stream, even if the water is a little cool. If you stand too long on the bank, contemplating the exact temperature of the water, the opportunity drifts by, becoming unreachable. Learning to decide quickly means learning to trust your ability to swim once you are in the water. Finally, and perhaps most importantly for your long-term well-being, is the cost to your confidence. Every time you defer a decision, you send a quiet but powerful message to yourself. I do not trust my judgment. We build self-trust by making choices, seeing the results, adjusting and learning. It's a continuous loop. Even a choice that leads to an unexpected result is valuable because it gives you new data and strengthens the muscle of action. An unmade choice, however, leaves you perpetually hovering. It reinforces the fear that any outcome will be too difficult to handle. When you consistently put off choices, you begin to doubt your competence in all areas of life. You start waiting for external validation, for someone else to step in and tell you the right thing to do. This dependence slowly erodes your sense of autonomy and power. The great paradox is that we delay to find peace of mind, but the delay itself destroys it. Peace doesn't come from finding the perfect, unassailable option. It comes from the simple act of resolution. Imagine a set of scales. Indecision is what happens when those scales are suspended, constantly swinging back and forth, never settling. You are always weighing, never concluding. The moment you decide, you introduce a weight that anchors the scale, bringing it to a settled point. That settledness is peace. It's the release of the need to constantly monitor, calculate, and worry. Learning to decide brings peace because it acknowledges a fundamental truth. Life is not about eliminating risk. It is about managing it gracefully. A confident choice is simply one that acknowledges that you have considered the available facts, aligned with your immediate needs, and are prepared to handle the consequences, whatever they may be. It's an act of self-respect. It says, I trust myself enough to step forward. This doesn't mean you should rush into massive life changes without thought. It means finding that sweet spot, that moment where consideration transitions into action. The difference between helpful deliberation and draining indecision is often the presence of a self-imposed deadline for resolution. Deliberation is focused. Indecision is circular. We are not seeking flawless outcomes. We are seeking flow, the state where action follows intention naturally, without internal friction. We want a life where energy is channeled outward toward creation and connection, not inward toward endless, fruitless debate. To begin this journey, simply acknowledge the subtle costs you've been paying. Name the moments when indecision has stolen your time, your energy, or a valuable opportunity. See the pattern not as a character flaw, but as a habit you are ready to gently reform. The path to strong, clear choices starts not with finding the right answer, but with deciding you are worthy of resolution. You deserve to feel the lightness that comes from a settled mind. You deserve to capture the opportunities that are waiting for someone to simply say, yes, I am ready. This chapter invites you to make the first clear choice, to commit to mastering the art of decision. The next 11 chapters are merely the tools for that journey. Embrace the commitment and feel the first gentle, profound release of energy. Reflect on the next few days. Identify 3 small choices: what to wear, what to eat, what task to do first, that you might usually agonize over. Decide them quickly and observe the immediate, small feeling of freedom and peace that follows the resolution. Chapter 2, Finding Your Inner Compass. In the first chapter, we explored the hidden cost of hesitation, the way it drains our energy, steals opportunities, and chips away at our confidence. The natural next question is, how do we stop the endless cycle of weighing and reweighing our options? The answer isn't in developing a more complicated analysis system. It's in developing a clearer sense of self. Decisions are rarely hard because the options themselves are inherently complex. They become agonizing when we lack a consistent measuring stick against which to judge them. Imagine trying to choose a destination on a map without knowing your starting point. Every road seems possible, yet none feel entirely right. Our starting point, our true north, lies in our values. Values are the deeply held beliefs and principles that guide our behavior, shape our priorities, and, crucially, inform our choices. They are the quiet, fundamental truths about what matters most to you in this life. When a decision feels difficult, it's usually because the options presented seem to tug you away from a core value, or perhaps because 2 important values are in gentle competition. Learning to align your choices with your core principles isn't about eliminating difficult decisions. It's about making them easier to own. When your direction always feels steady and true, it's because you are walking a path that is illuminated by your own light. Think of your life as a beautifully balanced set of scales. Your values are the standards against which every potential choice, every weight, every counterweight is measured. When you place an option on the scale, you aren't just looking at the immediate benefit. You are asking, Does this choice weigh in favor of what I truly hold dear? If your top value is harmony, finding peace and balance in your interactions, a choice that involves aggressive conflict, even if it leads to a temporary gain, will feel heavy and wrong. If your top value is growth, seeking continuous learning and expansion, a choice that offers comfort and stagnation, however easy, will feel hollow. The first step, then, is to identify your anchors. Take a moment to reflect on times when you felt most proud, most satisfied, or most authentically yourself. What were you doing? What principles were you honoring? Perhaps you stood up for a friend, embodying loyalty. Perhaps you walked away from a high-paying job that compromised your evenings with family, honoring connection. Maybe you spent a weekend quietly volunteering, demonstrating service or community. These moments are flashlights pointing directly at your deepest values. Most people have many things they value, but focusing on 3 to 5 core, non-negotiable principles provides the clarity we need for decision-making. If you try to honor 20 values at once, they simply cancel each other out, and you are back to square one. For example, your core values might be integrity, creativity, and connection. Now, let's test a common decision against them. Imagine you are presented with a work opportunity. It pays extremely well, but it requires you to slightly exaggerate the results of a past project. Threat to integrity. It also involves highly repetitive, technical work with zero opportunity for new ideas. Threat to creativity. However, the money would allow you to take a sabbatical to spend more time with your family. Positive for connection. Without defined values, you'd be lost in the salary details. With them, the decision becomes clearer. 2 of your 3 pillars are shaken. The choice, though tempting financially, carries a high cost to your sense of self. You can confidently say no, knowing you are protecting the core structure of your life, not just turning down money. Conversely, imagine an opportunity that is modestly paid but involves designing something completely new and working closely with a small, ethical team. It aligns perfectly with integrity, creativity, and connection. The financial question then becomes a manageable detail, not the entire basis of the decision. The direction feels steady, true, and right. One of the great myths of decision-making is that we need to be purely rational. We believe that if we just make a list of pros and cons, the right answer will magically emerge. The truth is, the best decisions harmonize logic with a deep, intuitive sense of what is right for you. That intuitive sense is simply your core values speaking. The beautiful thing about making value-aligned choices is the immediate sense of internal peace that follows. When you choose a path that honors your principles, you eliminate the exhausting internal conflict. There is no need for second-guessing or regret, because you know you acted in alignment with your highest self, regardless of the external outcome. Even if the practical result of the decision is challenging, a project fails, a path becomes harder, you can look back and say, I made that choice because it was the honest, true, and connecting path. That integrity protects your peace of mind far more than any external success ever could. The secret to moving quickly and decisively lies in preempting the debate. When a new choice appears, you don't start the internal ping-pong match of pros versus cons. You immediately go to your compass and ask, which direction does this point me? This alignment process is crucial for maintaining the balance we crave. Many people feel perpetually off-kilter because they are consistently making choices that tilt their internal scales. They might prioritize financial gain over their health, or professional success over their closest relationships. Over time, this imbalance creates deep friction and a lingering feeling of unease. By using your values as the standard, you ensure that every choice, whether small or large, contributes to a life that feels integrated and whole. It's the difference between a house built on sand, subject to every passing tide, and a structure built on a strong, unmoving foundation. How do you apply this to everyday life? Start by making your values visible. Write them down. Keep them where you make choices, perhaps near your workspace or on the first page of your journal. When faced with a decision, say, choosing how to spend a free Saturday afternoon, don't default to the easiest or most expected option. Consult your values. If well-being is a top value, you might choose a peaceful hour of reading or a quiet walk, even if it means missing a social event. If connection is paramount, you might intentionally reach out to a friend you haven't seen, rather than tackling chores. Every small decision is an opportunity to practice living in alignment. The more you practice, the faster and more natural the process becomes. Soon, you won't need to consciously pull out your list. Your choices will simply feel smooth, natural, and true. This commitment to clarity also radiates outward. When you consistently act according to your principles, your actions gain weight and credibility in the eyes of others. People know where you stand, and they respect the gentle, consistent framework of your character. They trust your choices because they are clearly guided by something deeper than fleeting mood or immediate reward. Finding your inner compass is the quiet but radical act of self-definition. It is declaring to the world, and more importantly to yourself, this is who I am, and this is how I will live. Once that declaration is clear, the path forward ceases to be a maze of possibilities and becomes a clear, steady road. You possess the inherent wisdom to know what is right for you. Your task now is simply to name that wisdom and use it as the measure for every action. This foundation of self-knowledge is the ultimate tool for overcoming hesitation and welcoming the peace that comes with aligned action. Reflect today on your 3 to 5 core, non-negotiable values. Write them down. Then look at the next important choice you face and ask, which of my core values does this choice honor most? Allow the answer to guide your action, and notice the lightness that comes with making a choice that truly serves your deepest self. Chapter 3: Clearing the Noise. We've established that indecision is costly, and that aligning with your values provides a crucial inner compass. Yet, even with that compass in hand, the world today presents a constant, overwhelming sensory experience. We are bombarded by endless options, loud opinions, and a relentless stream of information. This is the noise, and it's the third major obstacle to making clear, strong choices. Too many voices and too many options fundamentally cloud judgment. When you try to weigh 2 things, it's manageable. When you try to weigh 50, your mental scales simply seize up. The illusion of perfect freedom, the idea that having more options is always better, is what often traps us in analysis paralysis. This chapter is about learning the art of quiet selection, how to tune out distractions, simplify choices, and focus only on what truly, fundamentally matters to the decision at hand. It's a process of gentle but firm filtering. Think of your decision-making process as a beautifully designed room. When the room is calm, clean, and has focused lighting, you can clearly examine the objects within it. When the room is cluttered, the lights are flickering, and 5 different people are shouting design advice, nothing can be seen or evaluated properly. The first type of noise we must clear is external voices. We live in a deeply connected world, and connection is vital, but when it comes to personal choices, the input of others can be suffocating. Your friends, family, colleagues, and the wider digital world all have opinions on how you should spend your time, money, and energy. Often, these voices are driven by their own needs, their own fears, or their own unlived dreams. While seeking wise counsel is important, there is a critical difference between listening to advice and outsourcing your decision. When you feel stuck, it's tempting to present the options to everyone you know, hoping one person will simply provide the right answer and relieve you of the responsibility. But remember the lesson from Chapter 2. Your choices must align with your core values. No one else knows your internal landscape better than you do. Their advice is weighted by their map. To clear this external noise, you must establish a zone of quiet sovereignty. When a decision presents itself, your first and most important step is to assess it alone. Give yourself a focus period, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever you need, to sit with the choice without consulting a single person or scrolling through social media for validation. Ask yourself, if no one else knew about this decision, what would I choose? Only once you have established your clear, quiet internal preference should you seek outside input. And when you do, be highly selective. Choose one or two trusted, impartial mentors, people whose values you respect and who have a proven track record of clear thinking, and present the situation clearly. Listen to their perspective, integrate what resonates with your values, and gently release the rest. You are the final, gracious editor of your life script. The second type of noise is the illusion of infinite options. In areas ranging from consumer products to career paths, we are told that the best decision is the one made after viewing every possible alternative. This is a trap. Research in decision science shows that after a certain point, usually around 3 to 5 strong, distinct options, adding more choices does not increase satisfaction. It only increases anxiety and the likelihood of choosing nothing at all. To simplify, you must aggressively curate your options. When faced with a dozen possibilities, your task is to gently eliminate the weak contenders until you are left with only the most viable, distinct alternatives. Establish clear, minimum criteria based on your values and discard anything that doesn't meet them instantly. If the opportunity compromises your well-being, it's out. If the path violates your need for integrity, it's gone. This is not narrow-mindedness. It is intentional focus. For example, if you are looking for a new place to live, don't look at 50 listings. First, define 3 non-negotiable criteria. Must have X number of rooms, must be within Y budget, and must be Z distance from work or family. Instantly filter out anything that fails this basic test. By reducing the field from overwhelming chaos to 3 or 4 strong contenders, the actual process of comparison becomes calm and effective. You are no longer juggling. You are evaluating. The final noise we must clear is the internal clutter of what-if loops. This is the internal chatter that spirals into hypothetical scenarios. What if I choose and it fails? What if I choose B and I miss out on the perfect C? This mental feedback loop is the ultimate energy drain because it deals exclusively in possibilities that do not yet exist. To quiet this noise, you must ground yourself in fact and probability, not fear and fantasy. When a what-if thought arises, gently interrupt it. Reframe the concern into a practical question. If I choose A, what is the most likely, manageable consequence if things don't go perfectly? By replacing vague fear with focused risk assessment, you bring the abstract anxiety into the realm of the concrete. You realize that most failures are actually just adjustments. If the new job doesn't work out, you know you have the skills to find another. If the new hobby isn't a fit, you simply return to the previous one having gained experience. This shift in perspective is key. You are not trying to predict the future. You are simply preparing to handle the present. When you trust your capacity to respond with grace to any outcome, the pressure to find a perfect choice dissolves. Clearing the noise is, at its heart, an act of respecting your own mental clarity. It's about protecting the peaceful space where good judgment can thrive. When your mind is quiet, your inner compass points true, and your values stand out in sharp relief. The true beauty of a clear mind is that decision-making transforms from a strenuous, agonizing debate into a smooth, natural selection. It is no longer a battle. It is an act of simple recognition. You recognize the option that best aligns with your life's design, and you choose it with confidence and calm. This quiet mastery is what allows you to act quickly while staying completely true to your steady, balanced self. Practice this today. Identify one source of external noise, a social media feed, a particular friend, or a news channel, that often influences your emotional state or choices. Gently commit to muting or ignoring that source for the next 24 hours. Observe the immediate, profound sense of mental spaciousness and calm that results, proving your ability to protect your internal clarity. Chapter 4: Confidence over Perfection. We have successfully navigated the terrain of indecision's cost and established the inner compass of values, while clearing the distracting noise of external input. Now, we arrive at perhaps the most persistent internal hurdle, the subtle, demanding desire for perfection. The wish to make the perfect choice is a deeply understandable one. It springs from a desire to be graceful, to ensure an optimal outcome, and to avoid unnecessary pain or misstep. We seek a decision so flawless that it guarantees harmony, both internally and externally. However, waiting for the perfect choice often leads not to perfect results, but to stagnation. In the real world, the perfect choice is not a pre-existing option waiting to be discovered. It is the chosen path made meaningful through confident action. The pursuit of perfection in decision-making is rooted in a fundamental misinterpretation of how life works. Life is a flowing river, not a static painting. By the time you have analyzed every single ripple and calculated the perfect place to step, the river has moved on, and you are left standing on the bank. The core shift we must embrace is moving from the rigid search for perfection to the dynamic embrace of confidence. Confidence is not the belief that your choice will be universally successful. It is the trust in your ability to handle any consequence gracefully. It's the quiet assurance that no matter what happens once you step onto a path, you possess the capacity to adjust, pivot, learn, and maintain your internal balance. Think of decision-making as sailing. Perfectionists want to wait until the wind is exactly right, the tide is perfectly high, and the forecast guarantees sunshine for the entire journey. A confident sailor, however, knows that the weather is always changing. They check the forecast, set their compass, and adjust the sails as they go. They trust their skill more than they trust the conditions. This requires giving up the myth of irreversible mistakes. When we feel paralyzed, it's often because we assign too much finality to the choice at hand. We treat every small decision as if it's a permanent tattoo on our life. The reality is that almost all decisions are revisable, adjustable, or temporary. Did you choose the wrong color paint? You can repaint it. Did you accept the wrong job? You can learn what you don't want and search for a new one. Did you commit to a project that didn't work out? You gained valuable experience and contacts. Life is full of gentle course corrections. The fear of imperfection is simply a disguised fear of judgment, either from others or from your own hypercritical self. When you release the need for perfection, you release the expectation of flawlessness. You give yourself the beautiful, essential permission to be human. To foster confidence, we must first learn to trust our instincts. Your instincts are not chaotic feelings. They are the rapid, accumulated data processing of your subconscious mind, informed by every past experience and, most importantly, by your core values, as we explored in Chapter 2. When you feel a gentle pull or a subtle hesitation about an option, your instinct is usually speaking a quiet truth. The mistake we often make is ignoring this quiet voice in favor of an overwhelming list of external, logical pros and cons. We argue ourselves out of what feels right simply because we can't logically prove its superiority on paper. The challenge here is to create a moment of genuine listening. When faced with two options, try the closed eyes test. Close your eyes, visualize committing fully to option A, and notice the first immediate intuitive reaction in your body, a sense of expansion and lightness, or a subtle tightness. Then repeat the process for option B. That initial, clean reaction is your instinct speaking before the mind has a chance to generate excuses or fear. Confidence also flourishes through small acts of completion. If you're stuck on a monumental life decision, don't try to solve it all at once. Break it down into the smallest possible, actionable steps. Instead of asking, should I move my life to a new city? Ask, should I research job markets in City X today? The decision to research is small, low risk, and immediately achievable. Small, confident decisions build momentum. Every time you act and follow through, you reinforce the message to your brain. I am capable of choosing and moving forward. This momentum overcomes stagnation like a gentle, steady current flowing over obstacles. You stop trying to make the perfect 50-step plan and instead focus on making the best next step. The perfectionist often waits for external validation of the decision before acting. The confident person grants internal permission to act and uses the results as validation. The result of a choice, even if imperfect, is the necessary feedback loop that informs your next choice. It's not a final judgment, it's just information. Embracing the imperfect choice is an act of grace and kindness toward yourself. It means acknowledging the inherent ambiguity of life. You cannot know the future, and every option contains a blend of potential gain and potential loss. Your job is not to eliminate the uncertainty, but to step into it assuredly. The true mark of a balanced life is not avoiding problems. It is the elegant resolution of the problems that arise. Confident decision-making means you are not defined by the occasional misstep, but by your consistent willingness to step forward, learn the lesson, and resume the flow. Allow yourself the immense, freeing realization that done is often better than perfect. The project launched with 80% perfection is infinitely more valuable than the perfect project still trapped in the planning stages. The choice made with gentle, informed confidence is more harmonious than the one delayed until the opportunity has vanished. Give up the heavy burden of being flawless. Instead, take up the light, steady grace of being responsive, engaged, and confidently forward-moving. Trust your inner compass. Use the information at hand and step out. The beauty of the path will emerge not in the planning but in the walking. For the next 72 hours, banish the word perfect from your internal dialogue regarding choices. Replace it with the phrase best possible choice right now. Act on that best possible choice right now without delay, and observe how this simple linguistic shift releases your internal pressure and allows you to move with a quiet, decisive grace. Chapter 5. Balancing Head and Heart. We've established the foundation for decisive action, moving past hesitation, anchoring in values, clearing noise, and choosing confidence over perfection. Now, we confront the subtle, ongoing tension within any significant choice. The pull between logic and emotion, between the cool calculation of the head and the warm intuition of the heart. The popular wisdom often suggests that the best decisions are purely rational, devoid of feeling. We are taught to make a list, crunch the numbers, and let the facts dictate the outcome. Yet, how often have you followed the perfectly logical path only to find a hollow ache in your gut, a quiet sense of something being fundamentally off? Conversely, how often have you followed a powerful wave of emotion, impulse, excitement, or fear, only to realize later that the facts simply didn't support your sudden movement? The truth is, the best decisions don't come when logic wins the battle over emotion, or vice versa. They emerge when the head and the heart cease their competition and begin a gracious dialogue. The wisest choice is the one where both reason and feeling are honored, working in tandem to keep your internal scales in perfect equilibrium. Think of your decision-making as a beautifully choreographed dance. The head provides the structure, the rhythm, and the precise steps, the logistics, the data, the long-term planning. The heart provides the music, the passion, and the connection, the meaning, the alignment with self, the intuitive resonance. A dance without structure is chaos. A dance without music is mechanical. You need both for grace and harmony. To achieve this balance, we must first understand the unique contribution of each part. The head offers clarity and foresight. It deals in what is verifiable, measurable, and probable. It asks, what are the facts? What are the financial implications? What is the most sustainable strategy? What are the documented risks? Its strength, preventing reckless behavior and ensuring stability. The heart offers authenticity and meaning. It deals in what is deeply felt, necessary for fulfillment, and aligned with purpose. It asks, does this feel right in my soul? Does this choice bring me peace or excitement? Will I regret not choosing this path? Does this honor my relationships? Its strength. Ensuring the chosen path is emotionally sustainable and genuinely aligned with your identity. When a decision feels agonizing, it's often because your head is trying to veto what your heart truly needs, or your heart is pushing for something that your head knows is logistically impossible. The process of bringing them together is not about compromise, it's about integration, the three-step integration process. Step 1. Give the head its due. Before consulting your feelings, let the logical mind do its work first. Gather the necessary data. Map out the pros and cons, assess the resources required, and project the most likely outcomes. This gives your decision a stable foundation. Do not proceed until you feel you have a clear, rational understanding of the landscape. Your mind needs to feel heard and respected. Only then will it quiet down. Step 2. Listen to the heart's echo. Once the logistics are clear, set the facts aside and focus entirely on the emotional landscape. This requires genuine quiet and self-honesty. Ask yourself, now that I know the facts, which option creates a sense of lightness, expansion, or genuine inner peace? Which choice, if made, would I be proud to own in 5 years, even if it brought challenges? Pay attention to subtle physical cues. Does one option cause your stomach to clench or your breath to shorten? Does another cause a gentle internal opening? This is the heart speaking in its native language. Do not rationalize or judge the feeling. Simply acknowledge it. Step 3. Seek the harmonious resonance. The final step is to gently overlay the two perspectives. The best choice is often the one where the head and the heart are pointing in the same general direction, even if their arguments differ in detail. If the heart says, "This choice gives me deep fulfillment," and the head says, "The financials are tight but manageable," you have resonance. You can now use the head's analysis to gently mitigate the risk, e.g., creating a stronger budget while confidently moving toward the fulfillment the heart seeks. If the head says, "This is the most logical and profitable path," but the heart whispers, "This will leave me disconnected and tired," the resonance is broken. In this case, you must go back and find a third option, a harmonious bridge, that satisfies both the need for stability head and the need for meaning heart. The mistake many people make, especially those who prioritize harmony, is to over-rely on external logic because it feels safer, more defensible to others, or less messy than dealing with deep emotion. But a choice made solely on logic, when it conflicts with your emotional truth, creates internal friction, a lack of balance that will eventually wear you down. Honoring the heart is not weakness. It is a profound act of self-respect. It ensures that the life you are building is a life you genuinely want to live, not just one that looks good on paper. When you successfully integrate reason and feeling, the resulting decision possesses a unique, undeniable weight and clarity. It feels whole because it accounts for both the practical necessities of the world and the deep, soulful necessities of the self. You stand firm in your choice because you can defend it with logic and you can sustain it with passion. This is true, gentle self-mastery. Challenge yourself today. Take one challenging decision you are currently facing. First, write down the top 3 reasons the head would choose option A. Then, close your eyes and write down the top 3 reasons the heart feels drawn to option B. Now, look for the subtle third path, the choice or adjustment that allows you to honor the logic of the head and the deep desire of the heart. Act on that integrated choice. Chapter 6, Small Steps, Big Progress. We have come a long way in understanding that strong decisions are anchored in values, cleared of noise, infused with confidence, and harmonized between head and heart. Now, we confront the sheer scale of some choices. Certain decisions feel monumental, life-altering shifts in career, location, or relationship, and the fear they generate is enough to send us retreating back into the safety of indecision. The paradox here is that we often feel compelled to treat every choice as a grand, sweeping gesture. We believe that if the change is important, the decision leading to it must be equally enormous. This pressure is entirely self-created, and it is entirely unnecessary. Not every choice has to be monumental. In fact, the most powerful and graceful way to navigate big changes is by realizing that they are simply the cumulative result of many small, steady decisions. This chapter is about learning how these small steps build momentum and, crucially, how they drastically reduce the fear of making mistakes. Think of building a beautiful structure. You do not start by lifting the entire roof into place. You start with the foundation, brick by gentle brick. Each small piece is tested, secured, and then the next is added. The final, elegant structure is built through consistent, small acts of commitment. When faced with a paralyzing, large decision, the goal is to fractionate the fear. The fear isn't usually about the destination. It's about the massive, immediate leap required to get there. By breaking the large choice into smaller, lower-stakes decisions, you transform the overwhelming into the manageable. The power of the tiny test. Instead of committing to the grand choice, commit only to a tiny test that will provide valuable data. If you are debating a total career change, don't quit your job today. That is a massive decision, loaded with risk and anxiety. The small steps could be: Small step 1. Spend 1 hour this week researching the required skills for the new career. Small step 2. Decide to spend $20 on a single online course introductory module. Small step 3. Commit to reaching out to one person who is already in that field for a 15-minute informational chat. None of these small steps are permanent. None carry the weight of irreversible mistake. Yet, each one provides crucial information, data that informs the ultimate, larger decision. If the research feels tedious, the course doesn't engage you, or the conversation leaves you cold, you've learned a vital lesson without sacrificing your stability. You can gracefully pivot, having confirmed that the grand idea wasn't the right fit. This incremental approach is the key to reducing the fear of error. Mistakes in a small decision, like choosing the wrong introductory course, are easily corrected. They are learning opportunities, not catastrophic setbacks. This allows you to move with the quiet confidence we discussed earlier, knowing you are simply gathering information. The momentum of the yes. Every small decision you make in the direction of your goal builds momentum. Momentum is not about speed. It's about the steady, forward force that makes the next action slightly easier than the last. When you successfully complete small step 1, you give yourself a small, genuine surge of self-trust. That internal win lowers the energy threshold required for small step 2. Soon, you are moving forward almost automatically, driven not by a sudden burst of motivation, but by the gentle, consistent force of established habit. Think of the difference between trying to start a heavy flywheel from a dead stop and keeping it turning once it's already in motion. The initial push is the hardest. Small decisions are those tiny pushes that get the wheel spinning. This is especially true when dealing with choices that involve your personal well-being or relationships. You don't decide to have a perfectly balanced life tomorrow. You decide to choose rest for 30 minutes today. You decide to listen deeply to a loved one for 10 uninterrupted minutes this evening. These small, steady choices, honoring your boundaries, prioritizing genuine connection, are the true substance of a balanced, well-lived life. The massive, final sounding decision is simply the moment you acknowledge that all the small steps have led you to a clear destination. It's an affirmation, not a sudden, terrifying leap. Establishing the daily non-negotiable. To ensure this momentum doesn't stall, identify one small, non-negotiable decision you will make every day that aligns with your ultimate value or goal. If your core value is health, the small, non-negotiable decision might be: I will choose to drink 1 full glass of water immediately upon waking. If your goal is a creative project, the decision might be: I will choose to write for exactly 15 minutes before doing anything else. This small, daily commitment has an outsized psychological effect. It teaches your brain to prioritize, to follow through, and to see yourself as a decisive person who honors their commitments. It creates a rhythm of self-trust that makes larger decisions feel like a natural progression rather than an intimidating crisis. The beauty of this approach lies in its gentleness. It doesn't demand dramatic, exhausting effort. It demands only consistency. This quiet, steady persistence is the ultimate expression of inner balance. You are not rushing, you are not forcing, you are simply moving forward, one intentional, graceful step at a time. Embrace the power of the small. Let go of the need for the immediate grand pronouncement. Trust that the structure of your best life is already being built beneath your feet, not through a single, perfect command, but through the calm, confident, continuous decision to place the next right piece. Choose one significant area of your life where you feel stuck in indecision. Immediately identify 3 small, 5-minute, low-stakes actions: research, a quick conversation, a mental commitment you can take today to gather data. Commit to completing all 3, and observe how the simple act of decisive forward motion instantly breaks the paralysis and shifts your perspective. Chapter 7. The Art of Saying No. We have covered the internal mechanics of clear choice, establishing values, gaining confidence, and balancing logic with intuition. But decisions rarely happen in a vacuum. They happen within a dense network of obligations, requests, and expectations from the world around us. This is where we must learn one of the most powerful and often overlooked tools for clarity: the art of saying no. Clarity comes when you protect your time and energy. If your internal resources are constantly being drained by commitments that don't align with your values, you will have very little left over to make strong, high-quality decisions about your own life. When your plate is perpetually overflowing, every new choice, even a small one, feels like a heavy burden. The goal here is not to become aloof or uncooperative. It is to learn how to set boundaries gracefully so that your yes carries true meaning and weight. This is an act of gentle, profound self-respect that ultimately benefits everyone involved. The difficulty in saying no often stems from a deep-seated desire for harmony and approval. We fear that by declining a request, we will disrupt a relationship, cause disappointment, or appear unhelpful. We mistake giving in for keeping the peace. However, true harmony is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of sustainable alignment. When you repeatedly say yes out of obligation or fear, you are creating an imbalance. You are sacrificing your internal peace and energy for the temporary satisfaction of another person. Eventually, this leads to resentment, exhaustion, and a muffled internal voice. That is the opposite of true harmony. The gentle pause. Before you can say no effectively, you must eliminate the knee-jerk yes. We often respond instantly to requests driven by the pressure of the moment. The most graceful decision makers know how to introduce a gentle pause. When a request is made, your immediate response should be a simple, calm delay tactic. That's an interesting idea. Let me check my commitments and get back to you by tomorrow afternoon. Or, thank you for thinking of me. I need a moment to see if I can dedicate the necessary focus to this. This pause achieves 2 vital things. 1. It removes the pressure. You give yourself time to assess the request against your core values and current energy levels, without the intensity of a face-to-face decision. 2. It honors the request. You are showing respect for the person and the request by giving it thoughtful consideration, rather than a hurried, obligated agreement. During this pause, you go back to your inner compass. Ask yourself, does this request align with my current priorities? Chapter 2. Do I have the energy reserves needed to execute this gracefully? Chapter 1. If the answer is no to either, then the decision is clear. You must respectfully decline. The gracious delivery. Saying no gracefully is an art form that requires kindness, brevity, and clarity. Avoid lengthy explanations or invented excuses. Over-explaining suggests you need to justify your boundary, which weakens your position. A clear boundary requires no justification. Here is the simple, balanced formula for a gracious no. 1. Acknowledge and validate. Start with warmth. Thank you so much for asking me. 2. State the boundary clearly, be direct and brief. I won't be able to take that on, or I need to decline this request. 3. Offer a brief, value-driven reason optional. If you choose to offer a reason, tie it back to your internal commitment, not an external excuse. I'm unable to take on any new evening commitments right now as I'm prioritizing my rest. This shows you are not rejecting them, but protecting your established priorities. 4. Suggest an alternative if appropriate. If you wish to maintain the connection, offer a brief, low-energy alternative. I can't chair the committee, but I'd be happy to share my notes from last year's meeting. This transforms the refusal into an act of limited helpfulness. Notice the difference in energy between, I'm so sorry but I really want to help. I just can't because my dog has a vet appointment and my car broke down and my boss gave me extra work. And the clear, gentle, thank you for asking. I won't be able to take that on, as I need to keep my focus entirely on my current deadlines. I wish you the very best with it. The second response is stronger, calmer, and maintains the relationship with far more integrity. When you protect your boundaries, people learn that your yes is trustworthy and that your time is valuable. This enhances respect, which is the true basis of harmony, making room for the important yes. Ultimately, learning the art of no is not about rejecting others. It is about fiercely protecting your most important yeses. Every time you say no to a distraction, a low-priority request, or a drain on your energy, you are simultaneously saying yes to something vital. You say yes to your self-care. You say yes to your core projects and goals. You say yes to quality time with those who matter most. You say yes to the internal peace that comes from a clear schedule. The decisive life is a life of intentional commitment. When you eliminate the clutter of obligatory agreements, your decisions become clearer, your focus sharpens, and your energy stays centered. You are no longer living reactively, responding to the demands of others, but proactively, guided by the compass of your own life design. Deciding what to keep out is just as important as deciding what to let in. By mastering this gentle, yet powerful skill, you ensure that your boundaries become the silent, strong guardians of your balance and clarity. For the next week, identify one area where you habitually overcommit. When the next request arises in that area, practice the gentle pause tactic. After taking time to assess, respond with the gracious no formula, providing a simple, value-driven reason. Observe the immediate lightness and clarity you gain by honoring your own boundaries. Chapter 8. Trusting the timing. We have built a strong framework for making clear decisions by grounding them in values, protecting them with boundaries, and embracing small, confident steps. Now, we turn our attention to the subtle, often anxiety-inducing, element of time. Decisions don't always need to be rushed, but they also can't be avoided forever. The challenge lies in distinguishing between a prudent pause, a moment of gentle, necessary reflection, and a paralyzing delay, a subtle retreat back into indecision. Learning to trust the timing is about recognizing the internal and external cues that guide you in knowing when to pause and, crucially, when to act decisively. Think of your life not as a frantic race, but as a graceful, unfolding season. Some moments require planting and patient waiting. Others demand swift, confident harvesting. The wise decision-maker learns to read the season. The value of the prudent pause. A pause is not a stop. It is an intentional suspension of judgment designed to gather necessary information or achieve internal clarity. It is a moment where you deliberately choose to not decide, because you recognize the decision is not yet ripe. The pause is prudent when it is time-bound and purpose-driven. It serves a specific, clear function. To gather critical data, you realize you are missing one essential piece of information that will fundamentally alter the decision's landscape. You set a specific, short deadline to acquire it. To align head and heart, you have the facts head, but the choice feels emotionally jarring heart. You pause to reflect, integrate, and find the harmonious path we discussed in Chapter 5. To allow emotional settling, high-stakes decisions often trigger intense emotion, excitement, fear, or anger. A pause allows the emotional wave to crest and recede, ensuring you are deciding from a place of calm objectivity, not reaction. A genuine pause is an act of strength. It acknowledges that slowing down now will lead to a cleaner, more sustainable action later. It is a conscious choice to protect the integrity of the decision-making process. Recognizing the paralyzing delay. The challenge is that a prudent pause can easily slide into a paralyzing delay. This occurs when the suspension of action is no longer purposeful or time-bound, but is driven by the desire to avoid responsibility or to hold out for that elusive, non-existent perfect moment. The delay is paralyzing when you are chasing zero risk, you are waiting for guarantees that life simply cannot offer. You are reanalyzing old data. You already have all the facts, Chapter 3, but you keep cycling through them, hoping a new conclusion will magically appear. The opportunity is fading. External circumstances, deadlines, market shifts, or relationship windows are closing because of your inaction, Chapter 1. The moment you realize you are going in circles with the same information, or when the cost of waiting is starting to outweigh the perceived benefit of the final decision, that is the clear signal. It is time to act, trusting the momentum of the moment. Recognizing when to act involves checking two simple, powerful gauges: internal readiness and external necessity. 1. Internal readiness. This is a check on your own clarity. Have I consulted my core values? Chapter 2. Have I integrated both my logic and my intuition? Chapter 5. Do I have the confidence to manage the consequences even if they are imperfect? Chapter 4. When these internal gauges align, you are ready. The goal is not certainty, it is readiness. You step forward not because the path is guaranteed, but because you are internally prepared to walk it. 2. External necessity. This is a check on the world's momentum. Is there a soft or hard deadline associated with this choice? What is the opportunity cost of waiting one more week or one more month? Is this situation negatively impacting my harmony or the harmony of those around me? If the external environment is pressing and your internal readiness is sufficient, even if not perfect, then the time for graceful action is now. The beautiful truth is that the universe often collaborates with a moving target. Once you commit and step forward, even with a small decision, resources, people, and synchronicities often begin to appear to support your momentum. The greatest rewards are rarely given to the hesitant spectator. They are granted to the engaged participant who respects the current flow of time. Learning to trust the timing is one of the highest acts of self-mastery. It requires both the patience to wait for internal clarity and the courage to seize the moment of external opportunity. It is a balanced, gentle dance between being reflective and being responsive. You don't have to force time to obey your will, but you must respect its forward motion. By honoring the necessary pause and then acting with quiet assurance when the moment is ripe, you ensure that your choices are not hurried, but well-timed, which is the very definition of graceful and effective movement through life. For the next week, identify every time you are tempted to delay a small decision. Ask yourself immediately, is this a prudent pause needed for clarity, or a paralyzing delay driven by fear? If it's the latter, choose to act within the next hour, regardless of the outcome's imperfection. Feel the relief that comes from respecting the flow of time. Chapter 9, Navigating Pressure with Grace. We've achieved internal alignment, our values are clear, our head and heart are in dialogue, and our sense of timing is steady. Now, the quiet, gentle balance we've cultivated must meet the real world, specifically the weight of external expectations. External expectations often weigh heavily on our choices. These pressures come from people we love, institutions we respect, and the invisible social norms we absorb every day. We naturally desire the harmony of social approval, but if we allow external voices to dictate our personal path, we forfeit the peace that comes with true self-governance. This chapter guides you on how to stand firm in your choices while maintaining harmony with others. It's about being simultaneously decisive and deeply respectful of the relationships around you, a careful, delicate act of social grace. Understanding the source of pressure. Before you can navigate pressure, you must understand where it comes from. Most pressure is not maliciously intended. It often springs from a place of concern, love, or projection. 1. Love and concern. Family and close friends often exert pressure because they genuinely want to protect you from pain or failure. They base their advice on their experience and their assessment of risk, which may not align with your internal compass. 2. Projection. People frequently project their own fears, unfulfilled desires, or societal expectations onto your decisions. If they missed an opportunity, they might push you to take it. If they fear stability, they might caution against your leap of faith. 3. Cultural or group conformity. Sometimes the pressure is simply the unspoken expectation that you will follow the established path, the traditional career, the expected lifestyle, or the familiar route. When you recognize the root of the pressure, you can respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. You realize the pressure is about their internal landscape, not a true reflection of your capacity or the wisdom of your choice. The gentle separation. The key to standing firm is to create a gentle, loving separation between the person and the opinion. You can honor the relationship while respectfully declining the advice. Start by practicing validation without acceptance. This is the core skill of navigating external pressure gracefully. When a person expresses strong disagreement with your decision, avoid arguing the merits of your choice. Instead, simply validate their feeling or intention. I hear your concern about the financial risk, and I appreciate that you're looking out for my stability. I understand why you believe this other path is safer. It is certainly a respectable route. Thank you for sharing your experience. It sounds like that decision was very difficult for you. By validating their perspective, you immediately lower the emotional tension in the room. You show respect for the person's right to their opinion, which makes them less likely to push harder. Once you have validated their position, you must calmly and concisely restate your resolved choice. I hear your concern, and I appreciate your perspective. However, after careful consideration with my values in mind, I have decided to move forward with the independent business. I understand the appeal of the safer path, but for me, the value of creative fulfillment outweighs the immediate security. I am committed to this choice. This approach is powerful because it is non-reactive. You are not fighting their reality. You are simply affirming your own. You are standing firm without striking out. This balanced response preserves the relationship while fortifying your boundary. The decisive shield of values. Remember, your core values, Chapter 2, are your most effective shield against external pressure. When you explain a choice in terms of your deepest principles, it moves the discussion from a debate about facts to an acknowledgement of identity. If someone pressures you to work longer hours and your core value is connection, you can explain, I know that work is important, but my choices right now are guided by my commitment to maintaining strong connections with my family, and that requires me to protect my evenings. This is not an excuse. It is a declaration of alignment. Few people will argue against your core identity. When they see that your choice is not arbitrary but flows from a deeply held principle, they move from challenging your decision to simply respecting your framework. This practice of clarity ensures that you maintain internal harmony. You honor your loved ones by listening respectfully, and you honor yourself by remaining true to your chosen path. You avoid the heavy resentment that comes from being swayed against your better judgment. True social grace is not about saying what others want to hear. It is about communicating your truth with such quiet confidence and respect that others have no choice but to accept it. Your clarity inspires trust, and your firm gentleness earns respect. When you are steady in your own choices, you become an anchor of calm for those around you, maintaining harmony not by bending, but by simply being balanced. Today, reflect on one choice you are currently making where you feel outside pressure. Prepare 2 sentences, one validating the other person's perspective, and one gracefully affirming your final decision based on your core values. Write them down and rehearse them. Commit to using this precise, balanced language the next time the pressure arises, and observe the shift in the conversation's harmony. Chapter 10. Releasing Regret. We have dedicated 9 chapters to the art of making strong, balanced choices in the present and preparing for the future. Yet even the most decisive and value-aligned person carries the potential burden of the past, regret. Every path has lessons, but sometimes, when a choice leads to an unexpected or difficult result, we fall into the trap of second-guessing. We replay the moment, inventing alternative histories. If only I had chosen the other option, my life would be smoother, easier, or better. This loop of regret is a heavy weight that drags down our present clarity and paralyzes future action. This chapter is about learning how to gently, yet decisively, let go of second-guessing, fully embrace the lessons of past choices, and move forward lighter, preserving your internal peace and balance. The illusion of the flawless past. The pain of regret stems from an illusion, the belief that the past holds a perfect, missed opportunity. When you look back at a difficult choice, you know the outcome of the path you took, but the path you didn't take remains a beautiful, idealized fantasy. You only see the potential rewards of the unchosen road, conveniently forgetting the potential obstacles, difficulties, and pain it also held. Regret is, essentially, a failure of imagination about the unchosen path. The first step in releasing regret is to acknowledge this truth. You made the best possible decision available to you with the information, emotional capacity, and consciousness you possessed at that exact moment. You cannot judge your past self with the wisdom you possess today. That is an unfair and ultimately fruitless exercise. Your past choices were an accurate reflection of your state of being then. If they led to difficulty, that difficulty was simply the necessary data required to evolve your present understanding. Embracing choices as information. The most crucial shift in perspective is seeing every choice, regardless of its outcome, as valuable information. There are no true failures, only feedback. When a decision doesn't unfold as planned, most people ask, "Why did I fail?" The question that truly serves your growth and balance is, what is the lesson this result is here to teach me? If you chose a difficult career path, the lesson might be that your values truly require more creativity, or that you need stronger boundaries around your time. The bad choice simply confirmed what you already knew deep down. If a relationship ended, the lesson might be about the need for clearer communication, or a better understanding of what you genuinely seek in connection. This transformation, from viewing an outcome as a personal verdict to seeing it as a neutral data point, is incredibly freeing. It shifts the emphasis from self-blame to self-awareness. To implement this, practice the gentle post-mortem. When a past choice surfaces with a sting of regret, give yourself a limited time, say 15 minutes, to engage with it purposefully. Ask 3 clear, objective questions. 1. What was the original goal or intention of that choice? Reroute yourself in the initial, positive motivation. 2. What tangible, verifiable information did the outcome provide me? Focus on facts, not feelings. 3. How will I integrate this new information to adjust my decision-making framework going forward? Make the lesson immediately useful. Once the 15 minutes are up, the reflection is over. You have mined the gold, and you gently and firmly release the rest of the rock. The anchor of present action. Regret and second-guessing exist only when your mind is dwelling in the past. The antidote is always intentional, decisive action in the present moment. When you feel the familiar pull of "I should have done this," redirect that energy immediately toward "What can I choose to do now?" The energy used to replay a past mistake is exactly the same energy needed to confidently make a positive move today. By choosing to focus on the next right action, Chapter 6, you starve the regret loop of its fuel. You are essentially telling your mind, the past is closed. My power lies here now, in this moment of choice. This conscious commitment to the present is the ultimate act of internal harmony. You ensure that your mental scales are not tipped backward by history, but are balanced and prepared for the choices of the day. This practice also deepens your self-compassion. You realize that growth is inherently messy. Perfection is an illusion. Evolution is the truth. Every seemingly imperfect choice was a necessary bend in the river that brought you to the strong, grounded place you are today. You wouldn't have the clarity you possess now without the path you actually walked. Release the phantom choices and the imagined outcomes. Honor your past self for having the courage to make a choice at all. Take the precious lessons learned and use them not as anchors, but as gentle ballast that ensures your future decisions are steady, informed, and graceful. Your power to create harmony is always renewed in the present. Decide now to be free from the shadow of the past and move forward into the lightness of today's clear choices. For the rest of the day, when a thought of regret arises, gently acknowledge it by saying internally, "Thank you for the data, but I am choosing present action." Immediately pivot to a small, current task or decision that requires your full focus. Use this decisive action to prove to yourself that your energy belongs to the now. Chapter 11. Leading through decisiveness. We have explored how clear choices create internal peace, but the journey of decisiveness is never purely isolated. We exist in a constant, delicate interplay with others, and our decisions ripple outward, influencing those in our orbit, whether family, friends, colleagues, or community members. This chapter explores how clarity in your own choices inspires trust and guidance for those around you, transforming your personal decisiveness into a gentle yet powerful form of leadership. Decisiveness is not about bossing others around or forcing your will upon a situation. True leadership through decisiveness is about being a steady, predictable point of reference in a world often characterized by chaos and uncertainty. When you are clear about your values and firm in your direction, you create a space of safety and confidence for others to navigate. The power of steady energy. Think of the energy an undecided person projects. It's often nervous, fragmented, and hesitant. When someone is in the throes of constant second-guessing, they unintentionally create anxiety in the people who depend on them. Plans are tentative, commitments feel soft, and the future always seems conditional. Now, think of the energy projected by someone who is clear and settled. That person exudes calm, reliability, and competence. Even if their chosen path is challenging, the sheer steadiness of their commitment makes others feel reassured. They are reliable because they know who they are and where they are going. Decisions ripple outward by providing a model. When you consistently make choices that are aligned with your principles, Chapter 2, you are effectively teaching others two things. 1. That clarity is possible. You show them that it is entirely possible to navigate complexity without surrendering to paralyzing doubt. 2. That boundaries are respectable. By graciously saying no to protect your vital energy, Chapter 7, you empower them to respect their own time and commitments. You don't have to give advice to lead. You simply have to live in alignment. Your actions become a silent, powerful curriculum, inspiring trust, not dependence. The goal of decisive leadership is not to create followers who need you to make their choices. It is to inspire a mutual confidence where others trust your judgment when it matters, and more importantly, are inspired to develop their own. When people see you navigate pressure with grace, Chapter 9, they see that standing firm doesn't have to mean conflict. When they see you learn from a past choice without spiraling into regret, Chapter 10, they learn how to metabolize their own setbacks healthily. A decisive leader makes space for others to contribute, knowing that they can integrate input without losing their own center. This is the difference between an autocratic, rigid leader and a balanced, harmonious one. A rigid leader fears outside input because it might disrupt their control. A balanced, decisive leader seeks input to ensure fairness and perspective, but uses their inner compass to make the final choice. They are secure enough to say, "I have heard all of your thoughtful input and I truly value it. Based on my responsibility for the whole picture, I have decided we will move forward with option B, focusing on a staged approach." This approach honors the relationship by listening and honors the task by providing clear direction. It brings resolution and forward motion to the group, which is a profound act of service. Decisiveness in relationships. This leadership is perhaps most vital in your closest personal connections. When you are clear with your partner, family, or close friends about your needs and choices, you provide them with emotional stability. Indecision in personal life, inability to commit to plans, wavering over boundaries, uncertainty about the future, is exhausting for those who love you. Clarity, even when the decision is difficult, is an act of kindness. It shows respect for the other person's time and emotional energy. For example, deciding to prioritize a personal goal means you must clearly communicate that commitment, explaining not just what you are doing, but why it aligns with your values. This transparency avoids confusion and allows those you care about to adjust their own lives harmoniously around your stable center. Your clarity sets the tone for the relationship. It ensures that the foundation is built on truth and clear expectation, not vague obligation or unspoken resentment. Leading through decisiveness is ultimately about understanding that your commitment to balance and integrity is a gift to the world. By staying centered, clear, and action-oriented, you don't just improve your own life. You lighten the burden of others by giving them confidence in your reliability, inspiration for their own growth, the peace of clear, forward momentum. Embrace the gentle power of your clarity. Realize that every firm, values-aligned choice you make is a drop of certainty in the collective ocean of doubt, creating ripples of trust and setting an elegant example of balanced action. Think about a recent group or family decision where your clarity was needed. Reflect on how your action provided a resolution that allowed others to step into their own roles confidently. Commit to recognizing the leadership inherent in your steady, decisive choices and acknowledge the positive ripple effect you create. Chapter 12. Living with Clarity and Balance. We have reached the end of this journey, a journey not to find a complicated new method for choosing, but to rediscover the inherent, balanced wisdom already within you. We began by observing the subtle cost of indecision, and we conclude with the immeasurable value of a life lived in clarity and flow. This final chapter integrates the tools we have refined: values, confidence, grace, and decisive action, so you can move through life assured, balanced, and forever free from the heavy anchor of indecision. The shift we have undertaken is a profound one. We have moved from seeing decision-making as a taxing, high-stakes event to understanding it as a smooth, natural expression of self-knowledge. When you are anchored in your core values, protected by healthy boundaries, and equipped with self-trust, the act of choosing becomes effortless. The integrated self, values, and action. The first and most enduring tool in your kit is the inner compass of values. Clarity is impossible without this anchor. When facing any choice, big or small, your immediate instinct should be to check this compass. Ask, does this option honor the principles I hold most dear? Integrity, connection, growth. Your values are the lens through which you filter the external noise, Chapter 3, and the internal debate, Chapter 5. When your action is aligned with your values, the result is an immediate, deep internal harmony, regardless of the world's reaction. This alignment is the source of sustainable peace. You don't just feel good about the outcome, you feel good about who you are in the process. The work is to make this check instant, automatic, and gentle. Practice this alignment in the small daily choices, Chapter 6, until it becomes the quiet rhythm of your life. The confidence of imperfection. The second essential ingredient is the confidence of imperfection. Chapter 4. We must permanently release the expectation that we are supposed to be flawless. This expectation is a heavy burden, and it is entirely unfair. Confidence does not mean knowing the future will be perfect. It means trusting your capacity to respond gracefully to whatever the future holds. Remember, there are no irreversible mistakes, only valuable information. Chapter 10. Every choice is simply a step on the path. If you stumble, you don't panic. You simply adjust your footing. Your strength lies not in avoiding the stumble, but in the speed and grace with which you stand back up, integrate the lesson, and resume motion. This trust in your own resilience is the most powerful resource you possess. The grace of balanced timing. Living with clarity requires mastering the delicate dance of timing. Chapter 8. Life is a flow, and true grace comes from knowing when to move and when to pause. Act when you have sufficient information and feel the internal readiness. Pause when the situation is highly emotional, or when a moment of reflection will lead to a cleaner, more honest choice. The difference between a graceful pause and a paralyzing delay is intention. A pause is purposeful. A delay is avoidance. Learn to feel the subtle moment when enough consideration has occurred, and then, without further debate, act. This respect for the momentum of time ensures that you are an active, engaged participant in your life, not a hesitant observer. The ripples of harmonious leadership. Finally, your personal clarity has a beautiful, essential outward impact. Chapter 9 and Chapter 11. Living a decisive, balanced life is the highest form of gentle leadership. When you set clear, kind boundaries. Chapter 7. You teach others how to respect you, and you model self-respect for them. When you stand firm in a value-driven choice amidst pressure, you offer a moment of calm assurance to those around you. Your commitment to inner balance becomes a source of external stability. People feel safe and certain in your presence because they trust your steady, thoughtful nature. This is the ultimate expression of living a life in harmony. You are at peace internally, and that peace ripples outward to enrich your relationships and environment. The tools are now integrated. The knowledge is within your grasp. The invitation is to shift your internal identity from the person who struggles to choose to the person who moves with assured, gentle clarity. This is not a state you arrive at once and for all. It is a practice, a commitment to honoring your values, trusting your gut, and moving forward with grace, one intentional step after the next. Walk forward now, assured and balanced. Trust the inner compass you've clarified and know that every choice you make, big or small, is perfectly yours and perfectly right for the journey you are on. The beauty of your life is created in your chosen action. Embrace the flow. Today, make a commitment to live by your 3 core values for the next 7 days, allowing them to instantly resolve any small choices that arise. Feel the lightness and assurance that comes from living a life truly balanced by your own internal truth.